As always, timestamps have been provided, and be sure to check out my new React channel down below where we cover more videos like this. Enjoy the video. The Christian Illuminati theory describes a hidden network of religious agents working to preserve Christianity's influence through secret conversion strategies. According to this theory, members pretend to follow other religions while gently introducing Christian ideas and values. Some accounts claim these individuals have infiltrated Buddhist temples, Islamic mosques, and Hindu organizations. While appearing devoted to these faiths, they allegedly promote biblical interpretations of spiritual teachings. These agents reportedly use careful comparisons between religious texts to slowly align different beliefs with Christian teachings. Some sources mention training materials that outline ways to find susceptible religious communities and create long-term fake identities. These guides supposedly emphasize patience, encouraging agents to invest years or even decades building trust before beginning subtle theological changes. Researchers claim to have found money trails connecting evangelical groups to interfaith programs that, while publicly promoting religious harmony, focus on finding similarities with Christianity. These programs often present Jesus as a universal spiritual figure rather than specifically Christian. According to this theory, secret messages indicate the group sees declining church attendance as temporary. They reportedly believe their work will eventually cause many people to return to Christianity once other faiths have been sufficiently influenced by their planted ideas and representatives. The Nephilim Earth theory proposes our planet previously supported an ecosystem designed for giants rather than humans. Ancient petrified tree stumps, towering hundreds of feet high, remain as evidence of this former world. Geological discoveries reveal massive root systems extending miles underground, suggesting vegetation would overshadow our tallest redwoods. Unusual rock formations, especially at sites like Devil's Tower, resemble these ancient tree stumps. This theory reinterprets the Great Flood as waters from an outer Earth ocean collapsing onto our inner surface. Noah's Ark supposedly traveled through a flood portal to our current surface world, rather than weathering storms. According to this view, deep-sea creatures with their enormous size and primitive features are remnants of outer Earth life that found refuge in the ocean depths. Giant squid, megalodon sharks, and other sea creatures are considered survivors rather than mutations. Worldwide cave systems allegedly contain evidence of giants mentioned in Native American traditions and biblical accounts. These weren't simply tall humans, but outer Earth beings who discovered paths back to the surface. Their occasional appearances created legends of the Nephilim, while most retreated to the hollow Earth realm of Agartha. Mysterious structures, such as precisely cut ancient stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons, are explained not as human achievements with lost technology, but as constructions by beings who could easily manage such weights. Blood type ascension theory connects ancient mystical practices with modern blood classification. What began as fringe interpretation of Japanese blood type personality theory evolved into something darker. Records show certain meditation groups in the 1980s began incorporating blood type specific rituals into their practices. We found evidence of underground gatherings where participants underwent blood typing before receiving personalized paths of enlightenment. These paths reportedly involved specific dietary restrictions, meditation poses, and sometimes the consumption of certain metals believed to resonate with their blood chemistry. Researchers found documents from a defunct Korean temple suggesting 8 distinct progression paths, each tied to a specific blood type and Rh factor. The paths outlined increasingly extreme purification rites, from basic fasting to ingesting silver particles, which can actually turn the skin permanently blue. Investigation found connections to older Mesopotamian texts supposedly outlining blood-based hierarchies among temple priests. Modern believers have seized on these fragments, claiming they prove ancient civilizations understood blood's role in spiritual advancement. They cite blood imagery in religious texts worldwide as supporting evidence. The movement gained traction in certain New Age circles where practitioners offered hemotyping spiritual consultations. These sessions combined blood type analysis with astrological readings and, strangely, interpretations of clients' earwax consistency. Several self-proclaimed Ascension guides published manuscripts detailing alleged success stories. These accounts described participants achieving various enlightenment stages through blood-specific rituals. Common themes included seeing auras, developing telepathic abilities, and frequent mentions of sudden cravings for pickled foods. Extra-dimensional energy proposes a resource extraction theory rooted in quantum physics. The concept suggests parallel universes exist alongside our own, each containing untapped natural resources and energy reserves. Some theorists believe experiments at CERN have created tiny rifts between dimensions that could potentially be widened. These might allow access to unlimited oil, minerals, and other materials from parallel Earths where these resources remain abundant. Energy fluctuations observed during quantum experiments have been interpreted as possible interactions between dimensions. This has led to speculation about machines that could stabilize these connections long enough for mining operations. Reports mention classified government programs studying, quote, dimensional resonance, with leaked documents suggesting successful tests moving particles between theoretical parallel spaces. These programs allegedly aim to solve Earth's energy crisis by accessing resources from these parallel dimensions. This theory presents both opportunity and risk. Extracting resources from other dimensions could potentially help humanity, but might also trigger a destructive cascade across multiple realities as dimensions begin depleting each other. Some theorists even suggest this process may have already begun, pointing to our universe's unexplained dark energy as possible evidence. The all biological matter is consumable theory suggests that humans have untapped potential to digest any organic material for nourishment. Ancient tribes reportedly performed rituals involving unusual plants and animals, believing these practices would activate deeper metabolic capabilities. In remote mountain regions, some communities claim to survive on tree bark and wild grasses through special breathing and meditation techniques that supposedly transformed their digestive systems at the cellular level. Scientists found unusual enzyme patterns in the saliva of certain isolated indigenous groups, indicating possible adaptations for breaking down cellulose and other normally indigestible compounds. These individuals showed higher concentrations of gut bacteria capable of processing raw plant matter. Research uncovered 1960s experiments where participants underwent fasting as well as certain specialized training, allegedly gaining the ability to extract nutrients from leather, cotton, and wooden objects. This process reportedly involved specific chewing patterns and mental focus to activate dormant digestive abilities. Reports exist of survival situations where people maintained health for weeks eating only leaves and tree bark, claiming their desperate circumstances awakened primitive digestive capabilities that modern humans have forgotten. The divine linguistic censorship theory proposes that an ancient language existed with supernatural power, connecting humans directly to godlike abilities. This primordial tongue, spoken before the Tower of Babel event, allegedly allowed mankind to shape reality through speech alone. Ancient Hebrew texts contain patterns that hint at fragments of this divine language, surviving through specific letter combinations and sacred names. Some texts mention words that could part waters, heal the sick, or even raise the dead. Powers lost when gods scattered humanity and broke their linguistic unity. Similar concepts appear across various cultures with myths of words of power in Egyptian, Norse, and Hindu texts. These accounts often describe beings who could speak things into existence or unmake them just as easily, suggesting a shared memory of this lost divine speech. Modern researchers have attempted to reconstruct this theoretical language by analyzing common roots across the world's oldest known tongues. Some fringe scholars claim to have identified certain syllables that produce measurable energy changes when spoken in specific sequences, though these findings remain unverified. Linguistic patterns in religious ecstatic experiences show subjects across different faiths speaking in unknown tongues with strange similarities. Some believe these moments access fragments of the original divine language, briefly breaking through the cosmic censorship. Fourth dimensional ley lines link human behavior to cosmic forces beyond our understanding. Similar to physical ley lines supposedly connecting ancient monuments, these metaphysical pathways shape the flow of human events through time and space. Historical records show patterns in seemingly random development where separated cultures created similar innovations, architectures, and beliefs despite vast distances between them. Temporal ley lines might explain how Egyptians and Mayans both built pyramids, or why multiple civilizations independently discovered mathematics. Some evidence suggests these invisible threads guide humanity towards specific destinies, like a cosmic connect the dots through time. When mapped across history, certain technological breakthroughs, artistic movements, and cultural shifts appear to follow lines of influence that transcend normal causality. Many major historical figures reportedly felt guided by unseen forces, as if their choices were predominantly by powers beyond their control. These accounts come from diverse cultures and time periods, from Alexander the Great to Napoleon Bonaparte, each describing an inexplicable certainty in their destined path. Archaeological findings indicate ancient cultures may have sensed these temporal currents. Stone circles, temples, and sacred sites worldwide seem positioned not just along physical ley lines, but at moments marking significant shifts in human development. This pattern continues today, with tech hubs, cultural centers, and seats of power clustering along what believers call nodes of destiny, intersections of multiple fourth-dimensional ley lines in both space and time. Proponents argue Silicon Valley isn't just a random concentration of innovation, but a nexus where temporal forces direct human creativity. Matrix realism suggests our steady march toward digital existence may be a calculated plan rather than natural progress. The rise of virtual currencies, digital identities, and simulated experiences mirror science fiction elements, yet serves real-world purposes of data collection and behavioral control. Evidence shows modern technology shapes human behavior through carefully crafted reward systems and dopamine triggers. Social media, gaming, and digital payment systems create dependency while gathering extensive data on user habits. Many people now spend more hours in virtual spaces than physical ones. This shift accelerated as remote work, digital entertainment, and online social connections became normal, blurring the line between authentic and curated experiences. Major tech companies are developing fully immersive digital environments that can replace traditional human experiences. These developments allow unprecedented monitoring and manipulation of human behavior. Younger generations show decreased interest in physical experiences, preferring digital alternatives. This generational shift suggests a gradual acceptance of simulated reality as the default state of existence. The push towards digital currencies and cashless systems makes all transactions trackable data points, creating a system where every economic choice can be observed and potentially influenced. Artificial intelligence and machine learning systems study human behavior patterns within digital spaces, potentially learning to predict and guide human actions toward predetermined outcomes. Digital systems subtly limit human choices while creating the illusion of freedom. From curated social media feeds to suggested purchases, each interaction guides users towards specific behaviors, benefiting those controlling the systems. Extraplanar operations evolved from ancient shamanic traditions adapted into modern warfare theory. Military programs during the Cold War investigated how altered states of consciousness might make soldiers susceptible to otherworldly influence. These experiments used substances like LSD and DMT to explore the boundaries between normal awareness and supposed higher realms. Soviet research teams reportedly developed specialized compounds to induce specific visionary states, targeting what they called weak points in human consciousness, moments when the mind became open to external forces. Subjects in classified studies consistently encountered similar entities while under the influence, suggesting these might not be mere hallucinations, but contacts with actual beings. These entities apparently respond to specific rituals and could be directed through careful preparation. Declassified documents reveal attempts to establish protocols for psychic warfare using these substances. The aim wasn't simply to confuse enemy forces, but to make their minds vulnerable to non-physical intelligences that could be negotiated with or manipulated. Some defense contractors still maintain small teams exploring this blend of pharmacology and metaphysics, though publicly they describe it as researching, quote, exotic psychological warfare concepts. Their actual work remains concealed behind security clearances and code names. Laboratory notes describe tests where subjects became vessels for external intelligences after exposure to certain compounds. These entities could allegedly access memories, control physical functions, and permanently alter personality traits, potentially creating a method for bloodless conquest. Hidden history reveals a connection between knowledge and power beyond simple information control. This theory suggests history functions as a code that shapes reality, with certain historical fact combinations offering direct physical world influence. Proponents note how major historical events often mirror each other in unusual ways, creating patterns that seem unnatural. These patterns supposedly function like a spell, preventing most people from perceiving reality's true nature. Historical records show powerful groups have taken extreme measures to destroy or alter historical documents, beyond mere propaganda purposes. In some instances, entire libraries and archives have disappeared overnight, replaced with records containing subtle but significant differences. Researchers have uncovered evidence of global construction projects apparently designed to overwrite historical sites. Many modern buildings are positioned directly above ancient ruins, creating specific geometric patterns when mapped, patterns matching symbols and occult texts about reality manipulation. Some investigators claim to have found evidence certain historical figures never existed, while others may represent multiple people combined into single characters. These alterations appear deliberately designed to prevent anyone from assembling dangerous combinations of historical knowledge. The theory proposes that the authentic past contained secrets about consciousness, physics, and existence, secrets that could grant ordinary people extraordinary powers if rediscovered. But substituting a fabricated history, elites allegedly ensured these reality-bending abilities remained exclusively in their possession. Eastern cloning originates from unusual patterns in China's birth rate and population statistics that appear to contradict natural growth trends. Records from rural regions reveal strikingly similar facial features among entire communities, extending beyond what family relationships could account for. The investigation points to concealed laboratories in isolated provinces where leaked images show series of metal containers filled with a peculiar blue liquid. Former employees speak of enormous subterranean facilities capable of housing thousands of these pods, all alive with activity. Information has emerged about significant power surges in these locations, corresponding to the energy requirements of the futuristic cloning centers captured in gravity drone footage. Local agricultural workers report numerous trucks moving under the cover of darkness, transporting what appears to be medical equipment and unusual cylindrical containers. Investigators found genetic testing facilities emerging through China's rural areas, far exceeding what normal healthcare would require. These facilities share supply networks with recognized cloning research institutions ordering rare chemicals used in DNA replication processes. Partially leaked government documents reference a population stability program, costing billions with no apparent purpose. The expenditure timeline aligns with when China's demographic figures began attracting attention from international statistics analysis. Records indicate thousands of new birth centers constructed since 2010, but satellite imagery shows none of the typical signs of hospital operators. Instead, thermal imaging detects deep heat signatures, suggesting extensive underground complexes. The finite soul energy theory proposes that human potential comes from a cosmic distribution of spiritual resources. Our abilities are determined by an invisible energy source allocated at birth from a universal pool that remains constant. Research shows that increases in exceptional intelligence often correlate with decreases in average academic performance across regions. This pattern appears consistently in educational data since the 1950s, suggesting an underlying balance in human potential. Ancient civilizations independently developed similar concepts. Mayans observed celestial events they believed affected the distribution of sacred fire among newborns, while Persian writings describe a divine breath transferred between souls. Modern studies reveal that remarkable individuals frequently emerge from areas experiencing widespread intellectual exhaustion. Tesla's emergence coincided with a decrease in European patent filings, and Einstein's innovations occurred during a period of reduced scientific productivity among his peers. Identical twins provide potential evidence. Despite sharing genetics and environment, one often demonstrates greater aptitude while the other often struggles, possibly due to uneven distribution of soul energy before birth. Research on child prodigies shows many lose their exceptional talents in adulthood, as if their initial energy becomes redistributed. Mozart's later decline is commonly referenced as an example. Throughout history, prominent figures have reported feeling depleted after intense creative periods, describing it as something beyond ordinary tiredness, as if their mental energy was being consumed. Highway delusions originates from strange occurrences on long, empty roads. It goes beyond mere zoning out. Some drivers report seeing things that distort reality. These visions typically occur during nighttime drives on isolated stretches far from urban lighting. During monotonous drives, the brain enters an unusual state between wakefulness and sleep. Research has shown this matches traditional trance states used by shamans. The steady rhythm of tires and road markings creates ideal conditions for the mind to drift between realities. Studies reveal that the same brain regions active during highway trances are also active in deep meditation. Long-distance drivers have reported seeing shadow figures crossing lanes, ghostly vehicles that disappear, and roads that seem endless. Remarkably, many describe identical phenomena despite having no prior communication with each other. Researchers have found these experiences most commonly occurred between 2 and 4 a.m., called the thin hours when reality may weaken. The theory proposes that modern highways have inadvertently created perfect conditions for glimpsing what exists just beyond normal perception, all resulting from simple boredom. Truck drivers refer to certain routes as spooky highways, where unusual events frequently occur. Places such as Route 66 and Nevada's loneliest road generate the most accounts. Some drivers document their experiences, compiling what amounts to cosmic traffic reports. Alternative religious narratives suggest a shift from the common ancient astronaut stance. Instead of beings from other worlds acting as divine messengers, both humans and aliens serve as creations under one universal deity. Evidence emerged when researchers noted recurring themes of higher powers across world faiths, hinting at a shared spiritual experience that might extend beyond Earth. The complexity of spiritual beliefs, moral frameworks, and the concept of divine connection points to something more than mere alien intervention. Religious texts often describe celestial beings with their own hierarchies, wars, and relationships with the divine. These accounts suggest even powerful entities answer to a greater force similar to humanity. If alien life exists, they might too question existence, purpose, and mortality. Their faiths could mirror human religions with prophets, sacred texts, and places of worship, suggesting a universal creator's influence spans the cosmos. Mathematical and scientific constants throughout the universe might be signs of intelligent design affecting all life forms equally. These universal laws could share as a shared foundation for both human and alien religious understanding. This theory creates possibilities for interstellar religious dialogue. Rather than being gods, aliens might share humanity's quest for spiritual meaning, establishing potential common ground for cosmic fellowship. Deceased Dead Hand Signals proposes a haunting reality behind mysterious radio broadcasts that continue long after their original purpose. Static-filled frequencies carry coded messages meant for spies and agents who may have died decades ago. These transmissions persist like ghostly echoes because their senders remain hidden in remote bunkers or safe houses cut off from the news of the world. Several recorded signals match patterns used by Soviet-era spy networks, yet continue broadcasting into modern times. A signal detected in Eastern Europe used a number sequence identical to KGB formats from the 1970s, suggesting the transmission point never received word of the USSR collapse. When tracking these dead stations, strange repeated patterns emerged. Many broadcast at specific times, matching old military schedules, using outdated encryption methods modern agencies abandoned. Some contain snippets of decades-old news mixed with their usual number sequences. Field researchers traced one signal to an abandoned military facility in the Ural Mountains. Inside, they found automated broadcasting equipment still running on backup power systems, faithfully transmitting messages into empty airspace. The original operators had long since vanished. Testing these frequencies revealed layers of code meant for specific Cold War-era receiver models. Breaking just one layer exposed coordinates to dead drops and meeting points unused since the 1980s. The messages themselves read like time capsules, warning about threats and enemies that no longer exist. Planned obsolescence extends beyond consumer goods like light bulbs and smartphones. Throughout the 20th century, evidence emerged showing how companies deliberately shortened product lifespans. For instance, in 1924, the Phobos cartel reduced light bulb longevity from 2,500 to 1,000 hours, demonstrating that corporations could intentionally limit product durability. This practice appears in other sectors too. Documents show city planners incorporating decay cycles into neighborhood designs through poor quality materials, flawed infrastructure, and calculated neglect, creating areas designed to deteriorate over time. This mirrors how electronic devices often fail shortly after warranties expire. Similar patterns exist in education and culture. School districts frequently change teaching methodologies, forcing parents to continuously adapt their approach to helping children. Fashion trends accelerate while clothing quality decreases, and language evolves more rapidly, effectively sidelining older generations. Research suggests these practices may serve to prevent community stability. When products, buildings, and cultural references are permanent, people remain in a state of constant change. This makes populations easier to influence, more consumption-oriented, and less capable of establishing enduring power structures that might challenge existing systems. The ongoing costs of maintenance, replacement, and retraining drain resources. Like deliberately fragile technology, society itself may be engineered for controlled failure as a strategic choice rather than by chance. Contemporary sacrifices suggest secret religious groups hide within the halls of power. These cults may carry out old rituals by taking people who won't be missed, the homeless, runaways, or loners. These sacrifices serve two goals: to keep the cult's power through dark rites, and to feed huge sea beasts living in the deepest parts of the ocean. Navy ships often sail to exact spots above the deepest ocean floors with no clear reason why. Sailors tell of weird sounds from below, gear breaking down, and being told to stay away from parts of the deck at certain times. The idea links to old myths where sea gods wanted human gifts. Greek tales of girls given to sea monsters and island stories of ocean gods needing human offerings share the same basic plot across distant lands. Some point to satellite images showing massive shapes moving under the sea. These shapes, some hundreds of feet long, show up briefly before diving too deep to track. The high number of people who go missing near coasts each year adds to these fears. While most can be explained, some think the rest are taken for these ocean offerings. Strange money flows to secret Navy programs with huge budgets and little checking. When asked, officials just say it's for national security. These ocean trips often happen on the same day as old pagan holy times, the longest and shortest days of the year, and other star-based dates that meant much in old faiths. Non-urban testing grounds caught fire in conspiracy circles when small towns across America started reporting strange animal sightings. These scattered incidents match how black projects typically test things in isolated areas where weird experiments stay hidden. When you look at the timeline, spikes in creature sightings often line up with military research projects. Back in the 70s, people near Edwards Air Force Base spotted coyotes with strangely shaped limbs right around when the base ramped up its environmental research work. Digging deeper, investigators found shell companies buying up remote land near cryptid sighting hotspots. The pattern makes sense, close enough to watch test subjects interact with civilization, but far enough to keep secrets. The government's been buying land in areas with lots of missing pets. Shelter records show most pets vanish within 5 miles of these properties, with far fewer disappearances beyond that range. Many of these so-called monsters look like normal animals with specific modifications: stretched limbs, unusual muscle development, or enhanced senses. These are exactly the kinds of changes you'd expect from military programs developing combat or surveillance organisms. Some former employees have leaked documents about containment procedures for modified test subjects and how to recapture escapees. These papers even include scripts for explaining away sightings as regular wildlife, almost like they expected creatures to be spotted. As cities expand and truly remote areas shrink, these testing grounds have crept from deeper wilderness toward the edges of smaller communities, reflecting broader changes in where military research occurs. The New World Order militarism theory connects disappearances around the world to what might be a secret training program for some kind of authoritarian takeover. People have found what they think is evidence. Missing persons cases across different continents seem to link up with these remote military compounds. There are even witnesses who say they've seen civilians being processed through makeshift facilities. Some leaked files from private military contractors talk about things like mass civilian management and ways to control crowds, especially in cities. The weird part is these documents have blacked out sections about asset acquisition and volunteer recruitment that apparently go back decades. When researchers looked at missing persons data, they noticed something strange: spikes in disappearances near known military testing grounds and black sites. A lot of these missing people had backgrounds in military or law enforcement, which makes some people think they were picked specifically because of what they knew or their psychological profiles. Then, when you've got these whistleblowers from security firms describing what they call conditioning centers, where people were put through really strict routines and had their behavior modified. They talk about special techniques to break people down and make them completely obedient. Investigators found shell companies tied to defense contractors buying up remote properties and turning them into restricted compounds. And when looking at satellite images, these places had features that looked like both military training grounds and detention centers, obstacle courses, guard towers, big dormitory buildings, etc. The transhumanist neural network theory connects our regular medical practices to hidden technology that might be altering our minds. People who believe this theory point to patterns where routine medical procedures kids go through seem to line up with changes in how large groups of people think and perceive things. They speak of evidence of patents that go way back to the 60s for these tiny neural implants. On paper, they are just diagnostic tools, but they supposedly contain details for altering moods and recognizing thought patterns. What's got most people concerned is how similar these old designs look to medical equipment used on children today. Some researchers claim they've picked up on strange electromagnetic frequencies coming from medical centers. These frequencies match exactly what you'd need for wireless communication between neural implants. Interestingly, these signals get stronger during the times of the year when most kids are getting their regular checkups. When looking at the medical tools used in standard childhood procedures, investigators found components that could potentially hold tiny transmitters. The metal in these tools contain rare elements, the same kind used in advanced telecommunications technology. In some documents recovered from closed medical facilities, there were references to things like collective cognitive enhancement and neural mesh integration. You won't find these terms in public medical records, but they match descriptions of theoretical technology that could link human minds together. Former medical staff have reported weird experiments and malfunctions during routine procedures, what they called consciousness blips. During these moments, multiple patients would suddenly experience identical thoughts or feelings at the exact same time. According to these reports, hospital administrators quickly covered these incidents up.